Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rakia Nance, and I'm NACWA's Director of Communications. I am joined here by Kathy Bentz of Prince William Water. She is their Director of Communications, and she's going to be speaking with us about their recent rebranding opportunity. Rebranding has been something that a lot of utilities are embracing, and Kathy has agreed to walk us through their utilities rebranding process and also offer some of the reasons why and when a utility might consider rebranding. So, Kathy, let's jump into our conversation. What was the former name of Prince William Water?
So we operated for 40 years as the Prince William County Service Authority. We were formed by the state and local government, and that was sort of in that era, a typical name for a water wastewater utility. So, we operated that way from 1983 to 2023.
Wow, wow, that is quite a while. And so, when did the idea of rebranding first arise?
I learned after I came to work here, there was a quiet wish in the background from some folks to rename, but we didn't know that it would ever happen. A few years ago, we were updating our strategic plan, and our board of directors kind of generally in the plan said, let's look at our brand. Let's, just take a look and see if it needs a refresh. So initially, we were thinking maybe refresh the logo and perhaps the tagline. So something pretty simple. But we began to do some stakeholder interviews, some surveys, talking with our Water Academy alum, and consistently we kept hearing things about the name. It said didn't have a word water in it anywhere, so it didn't clearly identify who we were or what we do. We had one person, I'll never forget this, literally look at me and go, "What in the heck is a service authority?" So when we took that feedback to our board of directors, they looked at each other and very quickly said, okay, let's change the name too. And so they made that decision in the fall of 2023. We launched the new brand in July of 2024. So let's just say it was a very busy 8 or 9 months to get ready to launch.
I can imagine. And I do want to take a step back and define what it is we're talking about, what it is we mean when we say rebranding. Could you give folks an idea of what exactly that means and entails?
Sure. So, in fact, we even talked with our board about so your brand is your reputation in the community. The who you are, what you do, is it recognizable? And again, with our name, when we would go out and say we're the Prince William County Service Authority, I mean, think about that, Rakia. You hear the word service authority, that could be anything. So our mission wasn't clear in our name. Our old logo was just an S and an A. If you didn't know our acronym, if you didn't know we did water, that didn't clearly depict it. So it was really taking a step back and talking to our stakeholders, our employees, our customers. Okay, what do you think this organization is about? What is our mission? Are we conveying that to our customers and the public? And if not, what's the gap and how do we address that through rebranding?
I see. So you mentioned that this process took a very busy 8 to 9 months. What were some of the steps and things involved during those 8 to 9 months?
Sure, it was involved every department in the organization and every level of the organization. So if you think about anything that's changing your name, in our case, name, logo, and tagline, and I want to actually step back and say, when we did the launch, we decided not just to change the name and logo, it was about the customer. What could we do to make sure that we were clearly conveying to the customer the what's in it for you? So when we launched our new name, logo, and tagline, we also launched a brand new website, a mobile app, and an improved customer portal. So you can imagine the work that was going on in the background. Everything from the large projects like a website redesign, every uniform, every hat, shirt, jacket that used to say Service Authority ultimately had to say Prince William Water, especially for public facing employees. Think of signage, all of our signs redesigned and fabricated. We have a water van we take out to community events, completely redesigned and rewrapped. So there were large things like that. Then there were the everyday, equally important small things, business cards for all employees, letterhead, our social media platforms. We had to change our handles and our accounts. So there was a working group that we put together with representatives from every department, and we had well over 100 tasks on our list to manage, monitor, and implement by that July 1, 2024 launch date.
Wow.
One
That,
more piece that I
yes.
can't forget. Besides that work, the messaging. You do all the work, but we had to tell our employees what were we doing? Why were we doing it? When would it happen? We created a brand resources kit for especially a public facing employee so that if they got questions, they had the resources to answer them. And customer and public messaging, everything you can imagine, videos, press releases, social media, website, door hangers. So we tried to make sure we weren't just doing the work to make these changes. We had the messaging internally and externally so that everyone understood what was coming and why it was coming.
Right, right. Now, we know that two of the most visible parts of an organization's brand are its name and its logo. How did you all finally land on the name Prince William Water and the new logo that you developed?
The name came pretty easily, honest. In our region, Fairfax Water, which is our wholesale provider, used to be the Fairfax Service Authority. So we DC Water. Others have gone that route where you're clearly saying what you do by putting that word water in there. And we serve the Prince William community. So that came pretty easily. The logo, I want to say I am so proud. Both our new logo and our new tagline were developed internally by members of our communications team. So this wasn't some, fancy firm that did this. This was our internal team. So there was a great deal of pride in that. The logo, again, we wanted our mission to be super clear. So there is a water drop in it with multiple shades of blue. And at the bottom, there's a green leaf to signify our connection to the environment. And the leaf is sort of shaped. Folks have also said they see a caring hand in that. And then the name and our tagline, our new tagline is your water, your environment, our mission. All about connecting with the customer. And again, clarifying our role as a water utility and as an environmental steward. So we felt like it all came together really well.
That's great. It does sound like you have a very comprehensive way of explaining who you are and what you do. You mentioned that the official launch of the brand refresh was July 1st, 2024, so coming up on a year now. How would you describe what public reception has been like?
I actually, in anticipation of this, was talking to our deputy general manager yesterday. It has been an incredibly smooth transition. We had very positive reaction from our customers, from our other stakeholders. We had launch events. In fact, you attended one of those where local elected officials, our customers and vendors, it just went so smoothly. We had very few questions from people about what was happening. Our employees took a great deal of pride in the change, so they helped spread the word. I mean, it really has gone very smoothly for such a major shift. We heard, I was at a Chamber of Commerce event the other day and said, "Oh, you guys got all brand new trucks, huh?" And I kind of looked and he said, "Yeah, I see them on the road all the time." And I said, "Actually, the only thing that's changed is the decal that's on it, but it says who we are." I said, "You may have seen our old vehicles on the road and just not made the connection with the brand." So we feel like it's gone very well. And I think we're all really proud of the change that we've made.
That's great. It's also very rewarding when you can instill that sense of pride in employees. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and again, my team, it's going to be so cool as they go around the one who ultimately created the logo and the tagline. They get to see that everywhere they go. That's a real legacy that I feel like we've left. The Service Authority brand served us well for 40 years. It was a very traditional name and fit its time. But our legacy, I think, is a modern name that fits our mission, a cleaner look and feel that connects with the community and with our role in protecting the environment and clean water. So I feel like it was a legacy making project.
That's a great way to look at it. I like that framing. It seems like a lot of utilities are starting to ask themselves the question about not only the mission, but how well that mission is understood by the people and communities that they serve. So with that said, from your experience with rebranding, when or why should a utility, a clean water utility, consider rebranding?
It's going to be obviously different for each utility. For us, the timing was right. As I mentioned, it came up during our strategic planning process. People had sort of mentioned the need to, update our name. We had just experienced our 40th anniversary. So there were a number of signals like this is a good time to look at what works and that customer feedback. I will say if any organization is thinking about it, going out to their customers and stakeholders, what do you think when you hear our name? Show them the logo. What do you think the logo means? Kind of do some advanced testing. And for us, that clearly showed there was a need to make a change. So we had the data to help us with the change. The other thing I will say, when I did my job interview, I started here as the community outreach manager. And in the job interview, I kind of laughed and said, oh, that name. And I said, would we ever consider changing it? And my predecessor laughed and said, oh, no, we would love to change the name, but I don't think it will ever happen. So I would also say to utility, never say never. If you have support from the top down, if you get the feedback from the customers that say, yeah, I think, your brand is not clearly conveyed to us, give it a try. You never know until you take that step. We're about to do year later some testing again with the same stakeholders, customers, employees to see what they think now, if they recognize the brand. So I think it's going to be interesting to see on the back end what kind of response we've gotten. And we'd be happy to share that with you and other utilities when we have that.
It's great. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I know there's a lot of excitement in the development and the launch, but the measurement is such an equally important part of the rebrand process. So thank you. And we'll definitely look forward to you sharing those results if you would like.
Yeah, and I mentioned early on, not only did we do the name change, at the same time we launched new website, mobile app, customer portal. We can see every single month since the launch, the website numbers from the prior year have been 10-20% higher. We're watching, I think we have 7,000 downloads of the mobile app. So we're watching those data points as well to see if we're connecting with customers in those ways. Are we giving them the information they need using the platform that they want?
Oh, that's great to hear. It's very encouraging. Well, Kathy, those are all of the questions that I had, and I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to chat about the rebrand. And also, again, just congratulations to you and your team on a successful rebrand launch.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I think this is a great program